All right, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Stu and the Nun. How you doing, Doc? Good to have you back with us.
Good to be back.
There we go. Yeah. So, hey, we a lot of things happened in the news. We covered some already in a previous episode, but I want to talk a little bit about this train derailment thing in Ohio. You know, it happened about 3-4 weeks ago, and remember it happened. It didn't get a lot of it didn't get a lot of coverage right up front. You know, it kind of happened. It was contained regionally as far as news coverage. It took about a week or so before even Fox started picking it up, and by then, some rash decisions had been made and approved and carried out on that with. And I talked about this in an earlier show last week. Just surprised how quickly so such a decision with such an impact could be made so quickly, and everyone just signed off on it without it going anywhere else. And that was the one car which was had a lot of cars had highly toxic and carcinogenic materials in them, but one was very volatile to explode. And even though they had evacuated around it, they were worried about it blowing up, so they decided to dump it all out into a ditch and burn it. And all that was done before really any mainstream media picked it up. And I saw some even latest results recently in the last 24 hours that now they're actually starting to grasp their hands around what impact this is and how long it's going to be. And I'm just still amazed that it was just like someone did it on a fly. I didn't have to elevate it to anyone. The Ohio governor and the Pennsylvania governor both apparently signed off on it, and the railroad said this is the way to go, and they just executed on it without even a thought of the environmental impact. I mean, I just think about we're in the military. You're on a training ground, and my God, you see a red cockaded woodpecker, and the entire training mission stops and evacuates because there's a woodpecker living nearby, and we see the black smoke and everything coming from this, and no one even thought twice about it. What are your thoughts? What do you know so far, what you've heard, and what are your knowledge of these chemicals and materials, what they could be doing to people? I'm curious to know what your thoughts are.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, because you have a couple, first you have what all the chemicals will do individually, right? Which we could, if I could probably open up a window and we could go through, naphthalene, toluene. I'm sure a lot of highly corrosive, as you said, carcinogenic stuff was in there. So first we have, what they'll do alone. Then we have what they'll do combined, which in a lot of cases we might not even know, right? And then we have what they'll do when combusted, which is basically what we're faced with now. And I kind of like you. I was like in complete disbelief. I initially thought, because the news that was coming out initially was so disjointed. I thought this thing caught fire and burned on its own. And my thought process was, wow, they need to get in there and put that shit out, because that's going to make this noxious cloud
Right.
that's just fucking horrendous. So they need to get, federal aid needs to be in there. They need, fire suppression aircraft going in there, putting this thing out, because this is going to turn. Which way is the wind? What are the wind patterns right now? Is this going to go up and seed rain clouds, and this shit's going to rain back down on people? Oh my God. And then to find out later that, oh no, that was on purpose. I'm like, wait, what? Like it reminds me a little bit. I was in Honduras with 1st Ranger Battalion in '87, and we had right in the middle of our perimeter. We were like 3 kilometers off the Nicaraguan border. Right in the middle of our perimeter, we had this huge tree. I don't even know what kind of tree it was, and it was basically dead. And you could see it had been struck by lightning several times. And somebody one day said, that thing could be an issue. That it could just so happen that tree has been there for how many hundreds of years, but now that we're here, what if it falls down and basically, kills a bunch of Rangers? So rather than pick up the perimeter and move it, somebody got the bright idea. Let's shoot a 90 millimeter recoilless rifle at the tree about 2/3 of the way up, and we'll see if we can just knock that top part off.
What E4 came up with that idea?
Yeah, well, I don't know, but so I'm in the recoilless rifle section, And our senior gunner, they come and get him, and they tell him, Brett Fisher, they tell him he's going to take a shot at this tree. And I walked over to him. I go, hey, Fish, I don't think that's going to fucking do anything. And he goes, yeah, I don't either, but they're giving me a chance to shoot a tree. I'm going to shoot a tree. Like, whatever. It's not, this company commander had blessed off on it and everything. And we all stood off to one side as, Brett fired an anti-tank round at this fucking tree. And it made a boom, and you could see the fins sticking out of the tree up about 2/3 of the way up, but it didn't do anything. And I feel like the same level of thought went into this. They're like, we got to get rid of, we don't want to see, good initiative, bad judgment, right? Into the groundwater. Well, how do we keep it from seeping into the groundwater? It's like the Monty Python bit, burn. What the fuck were you guys thinking?
Let's dump it on the ground and then burn it.
Let's drastically increase the coverage of these toxic chemicals. We're gonna,
because the jet stream blows west to east, and we're just west of Pittsburgh. And then depending on which way the jet stream goes, New Jersey, New York City, or
high population centers, basically.
Right.
So I can't believe they even bought off on that being good. I can't believe, I've seen what hazmat teams have for spills. They've got these big, they look like the pool floaties that you set up the lanes with, right? And they'll absorb basically anything.
Right.
And then you seal those up in connexes and you take them somewhere and you do something with them.
Which, by the way, until the other day, they were taking them to Texas, to Houston, actually.
Yeah. So, I mean, why didn't they do that?
Right.
There's so many unanswered questions. Again, it's just like our COVID conversation. There are so many fuck ups in this. Our rail system is old, right? That's a problem that needs to be addressed. They passed a however many $1 trillion infrastructure bill that, oh, by the way, has no money in it for railroads, even though that's what everybody was told it was for. So that's a problem. NTSB making some fucking wrong decisions. Pete Buttigieg waiting, 20 days to even go down there and take a look. And I'm, much like Ben Shapiro said, I'm kind of two opinions on that. On one hand, do I think him being there really necessarily was going to do anything? It probably would have still made all the same fucking mistakes.
Not in his dress boots and tight jeans, no. His
right. So
jeans.
But his fucking job was to fucking get down there. This is a transportation issue. Then they all try to blame everything on Trump. The Washington Post went through and completely debunked that.
Right.
None of what's wrong with our rails today has anything to do with what happened during the 4 years Trump was in office. None of the deregulation affected this. None of the new regulations affected this. So
ideally, if he would have, ideally he would have spearheaded a team of him, the head of the EPA, and the head of HHS. In my opinion, all three would have went there right away and brought, because some people don't realize that the state of Ohio requested Friday would be 2 weeks ago. I think this Friday would be 2 weeks. They request FEMA emergency dollars, and they were denied by the federal government because it wasn't
because it doesn't matter if you have a fucking tentacle growing out of your forehead. Your house is still standing.
Right. So they denied it. So, but him, HHS, and EPA should have went down there together, made a commitment to those people, to those citizens, regardless of how they voted, right? Because there's some speculation and
because that county went 70% for Trump,
right? And said, hey, this happened, right? And we're bringing in, here's the heads of all the departments that'll come in there to help you out, and FEMA too, right? All of them should have been in there. But again, it's semantics, it's appearance, perception's reality, and you sit there and wait 3 weeks, and you show up at 7 o'clock in the morning. You don't talk to any citizens. You only do it after everyone has outrage and goes off and starts getting news. I mean, it's almost like when people apologize for doing something wrong after they get caught. It's like, are you apologizing because you got caught, or are you apologizing because you know what you did was wrong, right? And the one does not garner any sympathy, or you're just doing it because you got caught. If you wouldn't have got caught, you wouldn't be saying anything. If the media wouldn't have blown up like they did about this, if enough of those citizens didn't get on there and talk about the coughing and the showing the oil sheen in the water, and all these medical effects, then probably wouldn't have shown up. But yeah, I mean, but I do want to go back to a second real quick. I'm rewind to the 90mm cordless rifle. Did anyone think about what would happen if he'd have missed, or was he that good? Like, what if the thing would have kept going? What was the downrange area like?
Oh, he was that good.
Okay.
The round would have, I mean, you're not going to get 3 kilometers out of a 90mm.
Right.
So maximum effective range is about 800.
It was going to fall somewhere.
You can get targets up to a little over a click, about 1,200, right? And
because when I was in Afghanistan, we would engage in Afghanistan with a Mark 19, and some rounds would go high the first couple, and then usually, like after the tick was over, some farmer was coming running, hauling ass, pissed off because we just smoked something of his, right? Like, oops, that first couple we had to get our elevation just right, you know.
Well, so to Fish's credit, he actually he bore sighted in on the spot that he wanted to hit.
Okay.
And then we loaded the round. So the odds of missing were pretty much nil.
So a couple extra steps were taken to mitigate the risk.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
I wanted to just get back to that for a second.
on the gunner level, we were mitigating risk. On the command level, not so much.
That sounds like a good idea, Ferry, for sure. But anyway, so we'll come back. I just want to get back to that.
That by the way, that company commander went on to make general and became the commandant of West Point.
I wonder how many times he told that story in his speeches and career.
Probably never. Probably never.
Hey, young cadets, as you graduate, let me tell you this story. So no, it almost like we were in a twilight zone of, like, I mean, an E4 could have figured out, don't light that shit on fire. You know, I just think about, our times in the military, from before and after. There's a time in the military where we just dumped stuff, we parked stuff, we threw stuff, we didn't care. And then, there was a time when you got into the 90s when they're like, hey, put drip pans down. Hey, don't do that. Like, don't you, I mean, how many sergeant majors ate ass when a Humvee parked and there wasn't a drip pan put underneath it, right in the middle of the woods? Even in combat zones, I'm just going to say, I saw it happen. We're like, we blow this country up. Why do we care? But of all that kind of stuff. And then here it's like, just light it.
I can almost guarantee you that nobody on the ground in an official capacity was a veteran, because the first thing, when you think of burning shit you're not supposed to be burning, the first thing I think about is the burn pits, right?
Right.
And look at what look at all the fallout that we're dealing with from the burn pits.
And so that was just trash. That was just trash. It wasn't hardened chemicals.
Yeah, that wasn't known shit with the don't fuck with this shit sticker on the side of it, right? We're talking people got fucked up from burning feces and MRE trash.
Right.
Not fucking highly toxic chemicals.
That were used. Some were used to make sarin gas in World War I.
Yeah, exactly. But what's really amazing about this is that they refused to give them any FEMA support, right? And I've got this open. I don't know these numbers by heart, but I have this open in another window. So, Flint, Michigan contaminated their drinking water. This Flint, Michigan incident was a corrupt local government. They took shortcuts. They knew they took shortcuts. They were actually offered state water previously and declined it. Said, no, we're going to do it on our own. Everything that was wrong with the Flint, Michigan water situation was owned on a local level, right? This was corruption at a local government level. So what happened because of that? The state of Michigan ponied up $350 million to cover up, to help the residents of Flint. The federal U.S. government ponied up $100 million. So now we have just the opposite. This is a fuck up on the federal level. Yeah. And the federal government's saying, fuck you, it's your problem. Start a GoFundMe. We don't care. Yeah. So, I mean, these poor residents in Ohio, this is getting laid in their laps. I'm sure a lot of them are just going to have to move. I mean, I wouldn't, especially if I was raising kids.
The housing, I mean,
I wouldn't
unfortunately,
be
is
staying there.
it's not a, it's not a
You
high
can't sell
wealthy
that shit.
falutin. Yeah, it's not a
Yeah.
high wealthy area. I mean,
Yeah.
it's only a couple steps away from living near Chernobyl. I mean,
Yeah.
it is. I just saw I saw a report yesterday that one of the major grocery stores who source their branded spring water like 20 miles from there
Hmm.
have cleared. I don't remember which one it was, but one of the major grocery stores have cleared all their shelves of their water and
Hmm.
have totally taken it off and not selling it because it's like 20 miles from there, and they can't, either they have found something in testing or they just don't have any confidence in
Yeah.
the honesty of the government. But
Hmm.
you bring up a good point. Flint, Michigan's a good one. I mean, I just think about, dude, how many commercials can you see about, have you ever been to Camp Lejeune, that we're going to see,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
you look at
That's what we're looking at 20 years from
Camp
now.
Lejeune,
Yeah.
Camp Flint, Michigan, Agent Orange. I mean, you name it. Yeah, this is going to be going on. And again, who I think about, when I was in Desert Storm way back in a minute, I mean, I still get notices from the VA because my unit
Depleted
was
uranium.
downwind. Yeah, it was downwind when they blew the big
That too.
ammo
Yeah.
point, right?
Hmm.
Um, and they still reach out to me and all this kind of stuff, and checking in and all that kind of thing, because we were in the downwind, met message area and stuff. And it's how much of that, again, the jet stream moves west to east, how much of the northeast, mid-Atlantic to northeast to New England area, and including myself in Western New York, is I'm seeing reports of people, showing pictures of their cars after it rained the last couple weeks of looks like acid rain. There's white
Yeah.
stuff all over their cars. I mean, this is the lawyers, once they're done with Camp Lejeune and everything. I think those commercials are, do you live anywhere in these 7 states
Yeah.
in 2023?
And this is one of those things. You can pay 10 million to do the right thing now, or you can pay 10 billion down the road. Because and you brought up Agent Orange. Agent Orange is a great example, because Agent Orange, the government denied, drug its feet, denied some more, drug its feet some more, and by the time, and it was, I give credit where credit is due. It was under President Obama that finally it was signed that, yeah, hey, you know what, we're going to do something about this. And it was even to the point at that it was so bad, and so many of those guys who legitimately had Agent Orange complaints had passed away, that the sweeping order that eventually got signed basically included, if you look at the list of things they ultimately end up saying, including in that Agent Orange sheet, 75% of them have little to no real science to back them up. There's conditions on there that it's like, there's literally no studies, no good studies
that say it could be related to
that
Agent
say
Orange.
it could be real, but they're like, you know what, at this point, fuck it. We're just a lot of these guys have already died, and we're just going to, rather than actually do the research that we should have done 20, 30, 40 years ago, we're just going to pay all of you. Right. And that's exactly what's going to happen with this, is they're going to deny. And then, I don't know if you remember this, there was an incident a few years back where there was one particular town, and this is probably going to get received really poorly when I bring this up, but I'm doing this to illustrate a broader point. There was a town that they had a cluster of really weird, unexplained symptoms among high school kids. And then somebody brought up, hey, there was a train derailment and a toxic spill here like 15 years ago, about the time all these kids would have been born. And everybody totally zoomed in on that. And as soon as they said that, the number of cases like quadrupled in this high school. And they ended up finding out that they were all conversion disorder, that like none of them were real cases. But the point that I'm trying to make here is, if you drag, you basically have seeded the clouds now. Anybody fucking east of this location who has an unexplained shoulder pain 10 years down the road, they're going to have a leg to stand on in court and get a payout for this.
Yeah.
Because they didn't do the right thing now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like you said, it's going to be the Camp Lejeune doing stuff all over again for
All over
a
again.
lot bigger population and for a lot longer.
Yeah.
Because I mean, how can you refute it? Like I said, if you don't do research, if someone says, we know cancers unfortunately happen all the time and things like that happen, of, anything could happen and they're still going to happen because just that's the way it is. But what keeps anyone from saying, oh, I got it from that. How can you refute it? You can't, you can't say yes, no, or anything. You're just going to like, well, you live in Pittsburgh, the people who already got pet cancer. Yeah. Well, I wouldn't have got it if it would have been this,
Yeah. I mean, literally, so as stupid as this sounds, this is going to sound moronic, but if I worked at the CDC right now, I would be taking cages and cages and cages of rats to that area and be putting them out in open areas exposed to the elements. And then I would be taking these rats back, observing them, cutting them open, doing histological samples of their vital organs, their brains, everything else later to have some type of prediction of what we're going to be dealing with down the road.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, probably, I don't know, it's pretty cold up in this neck of the woods right now. So I don't know if they do well there.
Yeah. I mean,
but
heating cages, I don't know, but they need to be getting rained on and everything else.
Yeah. It's not a one-time drink a glass of water like, the head of the EPA and the Governor DeWine did. That's not going to do it. Right. It's,
did hesitantly, if you watch that video.
Yeah. It was,
they did not want to do that.
And I don't know how much they drink versus how much just put it to their lips, like, something, but it's not going to be that. There's parents that are refusing to bathe their children, and look, these people aren't, they don't all see this as a windfall. They're sitting there saying they turn the faucets on and you can smell it, right? You can smell it in the air.
These people are absolutely victims. I'm not, and I'm definitely not saying any of them are looking for a buck or looking to fake symptoms.
But the problem is we're focused on that locale area, and like you said, there's a lot of areas to the east, northeast, southeast that could easily be affected as it carries. I mean, the one picture of the person took from the plane, and you have the whole cloud cover, and you have this black mushroom coming up through it. I mean, that's going somewhere, and it's not coming straight back down. But it is going to be interesting to see, and I have this fear that a year or so from now, whatever, down the road, we're going to have you back on again, and we're going to be talking about this. We're going to be talking about this episode and saying, "Wow, we didn't know it was going to be like this or that," or have you gotten your call yet from the lawyers, kind of thing? Do you live anywhere?
I'll tell you this: if I had relatives, especially if I had relatives in that area that were kids, or let's say I had a female relative who was in her first trimester of pregnancy, I would be going up there to pick them up and getting them out of that area. Yeah. That's, if you look at most your listeners, look up Love Canal.
Yeah. That's right up there. That's right near me. That's right here in Western New York, Buffalo.
Probably because you live near there.
Yeah.
But you're almost a little too young even to remember that, I would say.
Well, I didn't live here when it happened, but it is still a hot spot. I mean, it is, you can go up there and look at it. I mean, it's 15-20 minutes from me.
Yeah. I mean, people forget. It's like we've already forgotten Love Canal, right?
Right.
And all the long-term health problems that came out of that.
Yeah.
And, your listeners can Google it and see exactly what we're talking about.
There are still major parts of the area there's no inhabitants. There's no, I mean, it is definitely that way, but that's good. I didn't think about bringing up Love Canal, but that's even better than Flint. It's just a lot longer ago.
Yeah. Sure. And I think that's the type of thing we're looking at here.
Yeah. It is going to be something to watch, but no, I appreciate your time on this and your info, insight to it. And I mean, I know you're not, probably you haven't studied these to the degree, but you've definitely seen ailments and things come out of exposures to stuff like that, whether it's, military or civilian. And I think it's someone people do need to pay attention to, like say, family members, food sources, all kind of stuff, what's going to come from this. But hey, thank you much, Doc Mike. Good having you on again, and definitely don't be a stranger. Love having you on, seeing the skull and everything in the background, and good having you back, and hope to have you on again. Thanks, bud.
Good to be here, brother. Thank you.
All right, everybody have a good night. Thank you.